So one of the things that we talk about a lot around here is when life does not go according to plan. It's like our whole thing. While we're here in this place that we did not expect to be, how do we honor the Lord? How do we glorify the Lord from here? Because our life did not go according to our plans. I was thinking about this. It's such a weird dichotomy, right? Like we have our plans for our day. So like today I had a meeting at church. It's a Saturday. I had a meeting at church and I got up. I planned the night before. Last night, I set my alarm for a certain time so that I would have enough time to get up and have my coffee. I made the coffee before I went to bed last night. So like I prepped it. So all I would have to do is like hit the button to drink my coffee this morning. I made a plan for what my day was going to be. And by and large, my days go pretty much as planned. Like I know that I'm going to get up, I'm going to walk the dogs, and I'm going to drink my coffee, and I'm going to talk to the Lord, and I'm going to read the Bible, and I'm going to get dressed, and I'm going to go to work. And then now what happens when I'm at work? I work in full-time ministry, so who knows? It could go either way. But I'll come home, I'll walk the dogs again, I'll feed them, I'll feed me, I'll squeeze in a workout somewhere at the beginning or the end of the day, and I'll go to bed and start my plan over, right? So there's a plan that I put in motion for my day. And yet, by and large, my days go according to plan. But then I end up in this place where life has not gone according to plan. And I just think about that. And I'm like, what? How? If the days go as planned, but life ends up in a place that I never planned, how did we get here? Is it possible that God's plan is it contingent on whether or not my day goes according to plan? I just find it to be this really interesting separation. What is it that they say that the days are long, but the years are short? Somehow in our scheduling and in our planning, there is an overarching something taking place here. And our day-to-day, small day-to-day decisions that we see and that we understand might actually point to a greater plan that we did not account for, that we didn't see. And I know that you're probably sitting there like, yeah, duh, this is what the whole thing is. But it struck me this week, if my day is not interrupted, and sometimes there are interruptions in my day. There's a sick dog or a flat tire or, whatever. There are things that can, and I'm not saying every day goes exactly according to schedule. I'm not much in control of the world, but for the most part, I know what to expect in the course of my day, and yet I have ended up in a place that I never expected to end up. So how did we get here? And what if all of my plans had come to pass the way I thought they were going to come to pass? What would that life have looked like? Probably depends on the time that you asked me. If you asked like 7-year-old Kylie, I would be a marine biologist and married to Joey from New Kids on the Block right now, who is very not attractive to me at this point in my life. I'm still very into dolphins though, but my life would have been completely different, right? And it got me thinking about how when I was a teacher, I didn't plan to be a teacher either. I planned to go do something else with my life. It was always going to be music. Music was always part of the plan. This was not part of the plan. And then I ended up in teaching because I had a day where I came back to my home in Cincinnati while I was in college in Nashville. I spent a holiday break here, and I got to work with high school students that my parents were teaching at that point in time. And it was like the best thing ever. So I was like, oh my gosh, go change your major. You're not going to be a performer anymore. You want to teach performers. And it was one little thing. And life didn't go according to the first plan I had when I started college. But I did plan to change my major and do something else. And then I was teaching, and I kind of thought, okay, I'll just be doing this forever and trying to love the Lord through this. And I did love it. I loved teaching. I never stopped loving the Lord. But the last 2 years of that, I did it for 12 years. And the last 2 years were really, really hard. And it got me thinking there was a plan that God had called me into when I was 19 years old. I knew the Lord was going to call me to full-time ministry. It's just that I was 34 when he made a way for that to happen. And yet in those last 2 years of teaching where I was really struggling, the grace for that season of my life was like, I want to say ending, but it was like just not there. I was struggling to be happy in that profession. And there was this one kid, though, that God sent that was like my whole reason for being there that year in my last year. And there were really a handful, 3 or 4 kids that were just really special to me. I actually just got a graduation announcement in the mail today for one of them. And they made the days worth being there. But there was this one kid that he needed me. It wasn't just that I needed him. He needed me. And there was a lot of purpose that brought to my days, caring for this one particular child that really couldn't get along with anybody else. And then all of a sudden, after 2 years of struggling and asking the Lord to get me out of this profession and get me into the next thing that he had for me, all of a sudden it was time. I remember that last year, at the end of the school year, I said, God, if you will give me another child like this, I could do this again. I could do this for another year. But that year never came. That purpose wasn't there anymore. All of a sudden, it was time to make good on something he spoke when I was 19. And the doors opened for me to move into full-time ministry. It wasn't part of the plan, though. All these things weren't part of the plan, and yet my heart changed in each phase, in each season. And I don't want to marry New Kids on the Block now, and I don't want to go swimming with, I do kind of want to go swimming with dolphins, but like not as a career. All of these are things that like my heart, my desires changed. So it all points to the fact that even though our lives didn't go according to our plan, our lives are not made for our plans. They're made for his. And we can plan our day to day, and through the course of our day to day, the things that we can focus on, our hearts will change and our desires will change, and we will want the things that are part of his plan for us. And then we will get there, and all of a sudden I'll be like, okay, now it's time to go into this. And we won't just have the desire for that thing, but we will be equipped to do that thing. Those last 2 years of teaching that were so hard for me, that is where I learned the fortitude and the endurance that I need to last in a career in ministry, because this is not for the faint of heart. All that to say, I don't have a big passage for us to break down today. I just have this one verse that comes to my mind all the time. This one verse that my father used to quote all the time, so much that it's like it lives on the forefront of my mind. So I just want to share that with you. It's from Psalm 37, verse 25. It says, I was young and now I am old. I'm not old. I refuse to accept that I am old. But let's just take the scripture for what it is. I was young and now I am old, yet I have never seen the righteous forsaken or their children begging bread. At every point in our lives, I was young, I was old, all of that. And I've never seen the righteous forsaken. How do we get from what we planned to the plan that we're actually living out? There can be a big jump in between. There can be a big delay in between. How do we get from point A to point B? How is it that our days go as planned, but our life does not go as planned? How do we get to that place? We get there one day at a time, until one day God says, now is that time. One day at a time, leaning on his promises, leaning on his word, which, by the way, is full of lives that did not go according to plan. Exchanging our best laid plans for his best.